I got my yard shoes on, the snow is gone. It must be time for lawn care. What's the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 17 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, let's just show you what things look like anyway. First of all, I hope you've had a great winter season. For those of us up here in the north, I can almost guarantee winter is not over and there will be some more snow coming. But I always like to come out here the first time during the early spring, if you will, that the snowfall is all gone, and kind of get a sense of what things look like in the yard, what kind of damage I might have from the snow, or what I'm going to need to do here in the early spring to kind of get things back in order. But this year, I'm pleasantly surprised so far. I do not see a whole lot of damage of any kind. I don't see a lot of snow mold. I don't see a lot of the things that last year I had a lot of problems with. So let's take a look through some of the parts of the yard, kind of compare to what was going on last year, and show you where we're at right now. So first off, here in the backyard, of course, everything is still pretty brown. It's gonna take a while for this longer grass to green up because a lot of the tips that got kind of frost burnt and brown during the winter time need to come off and need to be mowed off in order for that green growth that's coming out of the soil to emerge and kind of turn this whole thing green. You'll see a lot of this brown here. You can see brown tips and then a lot of this green that is starting to want to emerge from underneath. So overall it's going to look pretty brown, but the thickness is what I'm looking for here, and everything looks pretty much just like I left it in the fall time. I'm not seeing a lot of damage like I did last year. Right here, let's take a look at what things look like last year. I had not only some mold damage, but I also had a lot of snow mold on this fescue. Last year was my first year on this fescue, so it's a whole season old now. A lot of work went into it last year to kind of make sure that it was ready for the winter time, and I'm very excited right now about how that work has turned into what it looks like right now in the spring. Again, maturity always helps with the grass, and especially after renovation, another season under your belt is going to help a lot, but we didn't have quite as much snow cover on it for quite as long a time. That also is a factor, but overall, looks really, really good coming into the spring season. Okay, so this area back here, you can see where our dogs mainly come off of the deck, especially during the winter time when there's snow usually out into the yard, and we usually just get a path right here for them with a shovel. So they tend to go kind of all in this area during the winter, and that's kind of not going to be revealed as to how much damage is there until things start to green up, but I can definitely tell probably right in this section right here, some of that is probably going to be dead, and I'll just have to evaluate at that time and kind of do what I need to do at that point. So some spot seeding may need to happen, kind of fence off this area or something, but it'll probably be about a month yet before we find out exactly what needs to be done with this. So stay tuned for that. So, and all of you who live up in the frozen land know exactly what it's like as well to have to clean up all of the dog waste from the winter time that you haven't been able to do. Taking a look behind the fence, you'll remember that this is sort of the minimal maintenance area out here. So I don't do a whole lot back here. I do a couple times a year fertilizer. I dethatch it if it's necessary. It is still bluegrass, so it does kind of get thatchy over time. And I don't do any extra irrigation back here typically or water it, so it kind of is just left to its own devices. That kind of gives me an idea of sort of a really minimal maintenance plan compared to some of the other areas of my yard that I'm working on a little bit more. But in general, the area back here after the winter time looks pretty similar to the fescue. I did see just a couple of vole areas, so voles are just little mice. And as long as you wait until it's warm enough to start raking the lawn lightly, these will usually come out and they usually won't cause any major damage. Just get some more airflow down to the root system. And there's another sign that spring's coming. I don't know if you can see it. Right in that tree right there is a robin. You may have also noticed this large pile of sand here that was left from when I did my sand leveling last fall, and I had some extra. I have some plans for this spring, so also stay tuned for that. So I came in here to warm up my hands just a little bit, but drop a comment down below if your snow is gone as well and you're kind of seeing some damage or you're seeing good things. Just let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods as well. I'd just be interested to see how things are going across the country in different areas. Well, apparently some other people think it's spring today too, so there's some commotion going on noise-wise out in the front yard, so I thought I would just get a few shots and show you what's going on, and I'll tell you about that inside where the audio is good. One of the things that has surprised me the last couple seasons has been the Kentucky bluegrass on the north side of the house and how green it is coming out of the winter time. The same thing happened last year as is happening right now. So as soon as we get a few more warmer days and the sun gets a little more intense, this area is one of the areas that I usually can mow first. Despite that being on the north side of the house where light is usually less typical anyway, this bluegrass has been greening up for me really nicely the last couple seasons. Going to that small renovation section over on the side of my shed that is tall fescue, this has a little ways to go yet. It got started later in the season, and also this was put right onto a sand base as I was going to try to reel mow this, but I didn't really get to reel mowing it last year, and we'll see what happens with this season. So moving to the front yard and the perennial ryegrass and the side yard and perennial ryegrass Kentucky bluegrass mix that's over there. They're both predominantly ryegrass, so they act pretty similar, but that one side yard does have a little bit of Kentucky bluegrass put into there. These are pretty drastically green, and also the care of this section is more than any other place in my yard in terms of my maintenance practices and really being on top of this, because when you have a really short cut grass like that, the maintenance is higher. You have to be on top of things. You have to be working on it more. But those results also show coming into the spring season. You'll see that ryegrass stays very green, especially if it's under snow. And that's one thing that I wanted to show here. Anywhere where the snow was on this for a pretty extended period of time when the actual coldest temperatures happened here. We had a couple nights here of temperature around -20 with wind chills that was 30 below, maybe 35 below. And so anytime you have snow that's protecting the grass, it's actually a great insulator. And you'll see some of these areas where everything looks really green. That's where the snow is protecting the grass. Some of the areas that are more brown and dormant looking are areas where the snow either melted off more easily, or we get a lot of wind here during a lot of our snowstorms, and that snow blows off, especially around that front tree that I have here in the front yard. That will be an area where the wind kind of comes through the houses, blows snow off of that section a lot more, and then that grass is exposed and looks more dormant. So that's kind of what's going on with the color differences there. It is very drastic. Snow is not necessarily a bad thing for your lawn, especially during the coldest part of the year, but it is something that if you get extended periods of time, then you can run into snow mold. I've not seen any snow mold on the yard this year. I did not treat for it, but we didn't have a lot of snow here for extended periods of time, and that has helped me on that front. Out near the street, you're going to see the typical stuff that I see out there, a lot of sand, a lot of road grime and things that comes out of the street when the snow gets plowed up onto that section. This is all something that I either rake out or blow off in the spring. Now that I have a backpack blower, I will probably just take that out there, try to get most of this debris off once the grass is about to start growing actively, and I'm going to want to mow that section. And also, you're going to still see that, yep, it is still here. The cable is still in my driveway. They didn't get it done last fall, the ground froze, and now we're kind of sitting in limbo as to when that is going to happen. So I'm still going to have to deal with that this spring. That is one thing that I'm definitely not looking forward to. The rest of the yard is in fantastic shape as far as this reel mowed stuff. So once things green up here and wake up, it's going to be looking really good right away in the springtime. We also can't forget about the new property and the plots that I've been working on out here. And if you haven't been following along on my other channel, things probably look a little bit different from last fall until now. We have our building site done up at the top of the hill in terms of leveling off everything and getting that ready to build. We have the driveway in now, and that just got rock on it just about a week ago. So things really look different. They're starting to look like our home out here, which we're very excited about. We will be starting our build as soon as we can start to get some of these materials in. Stay tuned for all of that. I'll be putting all of that over on my other channel just because it's not really related to the lawn stuff that I'm doing. But any sort of lawn stuff will continue to be here. And if you want to check out the other stuff, I will have a link to the other channel right now. But out here, I'm really excited about how things turned out. As you know, if you're following along last fall, I started this really late seeding wise from when I really wanted to, but luckily we got some good weather at the end of the season and it was warm pretty much into October, and I got these things going, got the plots going, I got some other grass around it going so that it could hold everything in place and not have a bunch of erosion over the winter. And we have some bigger areas to mow, which I'm excited about, which will be starting here not too long as soon as everything starts to green up. So the plots themselves look pretty much like everything else, just brown and dormant at this point. You will see some green though in the ryegrass. Once we start mowing that, you will probably see it green up pretty quickly. The only thing that's lagging along like usual would be Kentucky bluegrass. that stuff needs some fertilizer for sure. I only got 1 dose on it and then never really got to mow it last year. It is a very slow grower, but I know by the end of this season it should look a lot better. You can also see here the deer have done a number on this bluegrass plot just because it didn't have a lot of extensive growth happening before we got to winter time and it was pretty wet. But I can roll this, and also possibly a light top dressing might need to go on there to smooth this out. Also with the driveway, you'll see I have plenty of stuff that needs to be planted this spring. There's some areas that have some slopes, so I'll be able to show you what I'm going to do on there. And also I have a couple more ideas, I think, for a couple of plots out here yet. Right next to these, I have plenty of space for that, so that'll all be coming as well. You can see back here as well, this is just the top part of the shade area. The deer have been really going through this area and it's kind of muddy. So this is an area that might need just a slight overseed, but we'll see how it kind of starts to take off as we get to the actual warmer weather. So definitely a lot of traffic down here from deer as well. But overall, I would say brown, of course, but it's starting to green up. And even though I'm getting filtered light, this is mainly fine fescue, and it should do really well down here with this kind of filtered situation. This was the testing that I wanted to do in this section, and also I should have something for sale hopefully soon as far as a shade mix like this. I'm working on that right now, so hopefully that'll be out and something that will be available for anyone that has kind of a similar shade situation. Today's weather is also certainly a tease. This happens every once in a while, as you guys know who live here in the Midwest area, where it happens to be about 60 today, and it's going to be down to a low of 2 or 3 degrees in the next couple days. So unfortunately this isn't going to last long, but spring will get here eventually. So thanks for checking out our update here today. A lot more will be coming as we move into spring, of course. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.